And let's turn to the UK, where the Prime Minister Liz Truss has apologized for her controversial mini-budget that crashed the country's currency, rattled financial markets, and led to her firing her finance minister and closest political ally. In an exclusive interview with the BBC, Truss insisted she would lead her Conservative Party into the next general election, despite her government being under huge pressure from investors and party members since the mini-budget was unveiled in late September. The plan, which proposed unfunded tax cuts, huge government borrowing, and exempted energy companies from a windfall tax, sent the pound tumbling to its lowest level against the dollar in decades.
Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I've fixed the mistakes. I've appointed a new Chancellor. We have restored economic stability and fiscal discipline. And what I now want to do is go on and deliver for the public. We were elected on the 2019 manifesto. I'm determined to deliver on that. Levelling up, securing investment into all parts of our country, getting roads built, getting opportunities right across the nation. And that's what I'm thinking about, and that's what I'm focused on.
And last Friday, Liz Truss replaced Chancellor of the Exchequer Kwasi Kwarteng with Jeremy Hunt, a former cabinet minister of multiple briefs who has stood for the leadership twice. Jeremy Hunt, in a brief televised statement on Monday, axed almost all the debt-fueled tax cuts announced last month in a budget by his sacked predecessor. Mr. Hunt's actions on Monday sent the British pound soaring against the dollar and euro, while bond yields dipped.
My message is we should be focusing on delivering for the British public. We are in difficult economic times, we're in difficult international times with the war being perpetrated in Ukraine. And now is the time to focus on...
No government can control markets, but every government can give certainty about the sustainability of public finances. And that is one of the many factors that influence how markets behave. And for that reason, although the Prime Minister and I are both committed to cutting corporation tax, on Friday she listened to concerns about the mini-budget and confirmed we will not proceed with the cut to corporation tax announced.
And global affairs analyst Benga Onifade joins me now to discuss the political situation in the UK as the Prime Minister battles to regain her authority. And he joins me via Zoom from the UK. Good to have you join us. So let me ask you, because we've seen comments of some sort from the US, also from Greece, and for the first time, the IMF broke with its tradition and criticized a G7 economy. How much of a challenge has this mini-budget posed for the UK economy, and how much damage has been done?
Well, I mean, as we all could see, the UK, which is the world's fifth largest economy, has had what, 4 prime ministers in as many years, and should we say four chancellors in as many months as well. We've got I think one of the biggest differences we had, because normally, even though the central bank is neutral, but for the first time we have the central bank and the government not aligning. The government, they control the fiscal policies. The central bank, they ensure inflation is kept low via monetary policies. But at the first time, they do not align. And of course, if you look at the G7 countries, the likes of the United States, Canada, Italy, France, Japan, Germany, and the UK, they've all left. They've all grown beyond the pandemic status, while UK is the one which is still stuck, hasn't fully recovered from the pandemic. So this seems to be an issue. And at the same time, at this point in time, everyone is expecting interest rates to be raised in order to curb the damage inflation the pre-pandemic money printing has done, or quantitative easing as they call it. But UK is still struggling and dealing with that. So, and of course, the IMF, they had to come out from their neutral status, and of course had to make a point. Even President Biden did make a point, but ultimately he said that's for the UK to sort out. I think one of the key problems the UK had with, the Chancellor, which I believe he meant well, or the ex-Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, whose reign was only, lasted 37 days, was the problem of not aligning the Office of Budget Responsibility, or, the OBS. You want growth for the UK, which has been stalling by the same government for 12 years. But when you stated this, $45 billion, billion pound cuts, you did not align them to look at the implications. So in the short term, it would have been great, but overall the market did not have confidence in it, and of course sent the pound, crashing to 37-year low.
And overall, because you just talked about the overall impact of this, but people are worried and just wondering if the UK is heading into a recession in the winter. Is that the sense that you're getting?
Oh, absolutely. This is an open secret to be really. I mean, how do we define recession? Once you have the GDP, negative growth over 2 quarters, it is effectively more or less a recession. However, the governments are redefining things and saying, of course, we know that history often does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. And in this case, what is the government saying? They're saying, okay, for the first time, job sector is still strong, so we can't effectively class it as the normal recession. But Goldman Sachs has actually been saying it, and thankfully, with Jeremy Hunt's turn, which is about 71% of the 45 billion pounds on budget tax, which, with the U-turn being made, they are saying, there will be recession, and it might actually even be really, really bad. And then, of course, with the way things are going, the new chancellor has said, listen, nothing is off limits right now. And he's actually had to bring forward the day when, they're going to roll out the further planned cuts or exercises, which I think people are calling it the Halloween budget now for the 31st of October.
And let's talk about the Prime Minister herself. She has said that she will lead the Tories into the next election, but there are calls for her to resign and leave office because it does seem as though she has put a dent in one of the legacies that the Conservative Party seems to pride itself in, which is fiscal confidence and fiscal responsibility, and she seems to have taken that away from the Tories. And the biggest question today is whether she can survive this, and how long do you think that she has in office?
Well, how long have you got? There's been quite a few, should I call it, posts going around, in a jest, really, people talking about, for example, oh, this banana, or this plantain will ripe before the Prime Minister last in office, or this cabbage would expire, this cabbage would not expire before Liz Truss's premiership. But if you look at it, of course, you are right. The Conservatives, they pride themselves on growth and fiscal responsibility. We are in a very difficult situation. But again, let's go back. How many ways can you take, get rid of the Prime Minister? Number one, you need the vote of confidence, which of course you're allowed to, you have to allow 12 months, which, people are thinking, okay, we need to have a little bit of patience. Right now, the change is not what we need. But Jeremy Hunt, who's actually been seen as the most powerful person in the government, people thought, okay, this might calm the market a little bit, and that's calming the market. And the other thing is, you might expect, of course, we all know, and we've been seeing this now. There's been, people, in the Conservative government, our peers have been talking about, her not being fit for the office, and they putting out pressure on her to leave. At the same time, I mean, a lot of people are thinking, you know what, maybe Jeremy Hunt is the one running the show. But, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet, her lasting till winter.
And there is also the talk about, you're right, to talk about the power vacuum, but we'll see how things play out. We are watching. Thank you so much for talking to us. Global Affairs Analyst Gbenga Onifade.
Thanks for having me.